Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Rum. This is a podcast of two brothers from opposite ends of the spectrum. My name's Kent. I'm a rum drinker, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon, tend to be a little more conservative. Join us as we explore this experiment. Can two brothers from different sides of the political spectrum have a civil conversation and celebrate our differences?
What are you drinking?
Well, it's a holiday. I thought I'd crack something good. I've had this bottle on my shelf now for, I guess, about 4 years. I got it on my 50th birthday. It's a bottle of Kentucky Owl rye. Their 10-year-old rye batch number 4, which is known as the last rye. And they had done a series of rye whiskeys, and this was the last one. And it's 112.8 proof, so pretty hot. Whiskey's between 10 and 13 years. Kentucky Rye started back in 1879, founded by this guy, Charles Dedman. They operated a prohibition in 1916, and then all of their inventory was seized, and then it says subsequently lost under mysterious circumstances. So if we could only find who's got that whiskey. But in 2014, his great-grandson revived the brand, and he started making blends of bourbons that he sourced. All the bourbons and the rye is sourced in Kentucky, but they don't know where. But yeah, really good. A lot of ryes are really sweet. Like this is pretty sweet. Kind of has like a ginger snap cookie taste smell to it almost. Some cherry orange type stuff in there, but really good, really smooth, and it's expensive. I mean, they're $300-400 a bottle, but which I thought, well, part of me is like, well, I'll just leave it in the shelf. Maybe it'll be valuable. It's like, no, I'm drinking stuff. I'm not a collector. I'm a drinker.
Well, and that's a good candidate to drink and refill with Wild Turkey 101.
Exactly. That's right. How about you?
Well, I'm, of course, rums, there are fancy rums out there. There are not fancy rums that are sold in liquor stores in the Midwestern state in which I reside.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have that scarcity thing that you all bourbon guys are on. So it suits the cheapskate in me. But I'm drinking a good one. This is Flor de Caña, just the regular. They've got some aged expressions, but this is just the regular. Flor de Caña is the flower of the sugar cane in Spanish. And this is made in Nicaragua. And it's one of my favorite sippers. It's very affordable, but just delicious, high quality, really, really nice. So
is it sweet or not too sweet?
No, not too sweet. It's fairly dry. Nice age to it though. It's got a good color, really mild. Just a good sipper. Yeah. I'm just drinking it straight. A lot of times I drink a little old fashioned, but I'm just drinking this right out of the glass. Well, we are on the doorstep of the holidays, and I thought you had a good suggestion about what we might talk about.
Yeah, I was thinking, they often talk about politicians, do they pass the barbecue test? Is it somebody you want to have in the neighborhood barbecue? And I thought, well, holidays coming up, we're going to meet in Michigan. What if we're at Mom's house and we had the opportunity to bring in a politician or maybe a whole slate of politicians? Which would we go with? And
let's see, to whom do you hand the eggnog mug first, right? Who's the one that you're most comfortable with that?
Yeah, and you're assuming there's you're imbibing. So it's a jolly feel, hopefully sociable type folks. I went to Chat GPT, and a lot of people talk about the bias in Chat GPT, and I'm beginning to believe it a little bit because when I typed in, it said what politicians would be great at a barbecue. I didn't say the holiday fest, but one of the top ones they listed was AOC. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know about that.
I oh man, I don't know if I want to touch that. Wasn't she a bartender?
Oh, really?
That's what
I
she
didn't
did
know that. Well, that makes sense.
before. That might be the linkage. That might be what's triggering the Chat GPT to, you know, um, yeah. I don't think that would go well. Uh,
Well,
um,
especially because, well, I don't want to go there, but she's probably a vegetarian too, so that wouldn't work.
yeah, my rum's vegetarian, so we're
Hey,
good.
that's good. That's
Uh,
good.
yeah, it's interesting. Uh, you and I have both been around some politicians in person. Not, it's not like I've dined at the White House, but I think over the course of our careers, both of us have had opportunity to meet, state officials and
Yeah,
people, and I think it's really interesting. They are a type. Like you can tell the ones that are going somewhere, and they have that ability to make you feel like they know who you are.
yeah,
This has been my experience anyway.
yeah. When I was in the military, I knew a guy at a base I was at, and he had been a flight steward aboard Air Force One in a previous career, and he'd seen Reagan and Bush, he'd done, like served meals and stuff like Reagan and Bush, um, and Dan Quayle, and even up to Al Gore. And I was quizzing him, what are the guys like? And he was like, it's all anecdotal. Like, who knows? It may
Right.
have been just a bad day or something, but he said Reagan and Bush were friendly. They would have a cocktail and talk to everybody, really laid back. And he said Dan Quayle and Al Gore, not so much. They were not as friendly, but who knows? But, conversely, we know we have a mutual person we know that worked with people most recently, and he even said before, like, Nancy Pelosi was one of the nicest people ever on
Yeah.
his airplane. So I mean, they're public personas. You don't know. That doesn't tell
Yeah.
you much.
It's totally different. And you can bet that mostly, like, you don't get to that level without crawling your way through the kind of local politics where you got to be, so no matter how big a jerk they appear in, on the big screen, I think that they're probably pretty personable for the most part.
Yeah, I think of the Phil Hartman, Bill Clinton impression at the McDonald's. Just grabbing people's French fries.
Interesting times as the cabinet's getting filled out. I mean, there's lots of material to mine for this. Elon Musk's position, have we named him co-president now?
Well, that's the allegation. I know the left has jumped on that for sure. I'm glad it sounds like he's obviously seizing on the first bit of fat, but that is going to be that whole government efficiency thing is going to piss off so many people, but in crossing so many boundaries. Like, it's not just going to be like the Democrats are pissed off at the Republicans over these cuts and these propositions. There's going to be all kinds of Republicans pissed at the Musks of the world for digging into their sandbox. It's going to get ugly when you start taking away people's entitlements and fiefdoms. It opens a whole new can of worms.
Yeah. And of course, I think you'll say that it's all kind of bluster and posture, but the ludicrousness of the kind of money that they're talking about cutting, I hope we're not going to cut Social Security because that's about the only way to get the money out in the kind of dollars that they're talking about. So, and I would put defense at the very top of the list of places that we could cut a few bucks.
Right. Well, and that's why,
Um,
honestly, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be strange bedfellows because some of the initial dialogue, I was watching a thing with Bernie Sanders talking about how excited he is about working with this new agency and specifically about defense and where there could be cuts. So and so like defense, guarantee you there's all kinds of fat you could cut, but you're going to piss off all these people that have little pet projects in their backyards. It's a can of worms for sure.
What's your read on the? It's a late hour. It's 7:30 here. I haven't checked lately. Is the government going to be open tomorrow?
Yes.
Is their
They,
third try a charm?
yeah, they imagine that, a stopgap spending deal.
Talk about who I don't think would not want to spend a lot of time with President-elect Trump at a barbecue would be people like Speaker Johnson.
You're right. Yes, exactly. That's the thing. It's like
I know that
people
there are,
like to talk about cutting things at a kind of esoteric level, but when you get into the weeds of chopping things up, you're going to piss a lot of people off.
and I think that that is a true thing that the sound bites are easy, but what happens is, I believe, and maybe this will change this. I would be happy about this if it did, but you don't ever cut enough. There's enough fat there that all of these outfits can absorb enough cuts and not really make change.
Right.
You could take billions off the table of defense and they'd be like, oh, we're going to have to wait another year for that 12th aircraft carrier.
Right. Right.
And,
Yeah.
like they can rejigger and it's painless to them. How do you make pain in these cases? Which is what you'd really need. You'd really need to cut deep enough to change something. Think about how
Yeah.
much money that is. What's the defense budget? Are you looking at up right now?
I didn't, but I mean, it's in the zip code of a trillion, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that's one of those things that people go totally apeshit about. Like, don't cut defense. Okay. But, would we survive with 50 less JSFs? Probably. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell you, I don't want to go down some rabbit hole, but I think one of the most asinine decisions that I've seen is the new bomber, the new B-21 bomber, which is kind of like a new and improved stealth bomber, which is that whole program.
Weren't those about a bill a pop?
Yeah, probably. Let me see. The B-21 budget is yeah, it's 700. It's 100 B-21s for 700 million a bomber, and it's a manned bomber. Why in the hell are we buying $1 billion a piece manned bomber? Like, why would we send two dudes on a 40-hour mission to bomb somebody when you could
Yeah.
do that with a
Yeah.
reconfigure a 747? I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying, but it's just decisions.
Well, I think it's a case that when you have that unfettered, I mean, this is exactly what Eisenhower warned about the military industrial complex. It's completely fed by the corporate interests that want to see it going. It's probably one of the biggest economic sectors in the country that we're filling. You're keeping that going. I mean, it's jobs. That's the other thing about the cuts. If you cut enough to really make a difference, then you actually start getting into issues around fiscal policy that I'm not opposed to, but you could have real like economic growth pressure if you stop the spending. And is that what you want? So many of these issues, I think the biggest lie, and both sides do this, is that like all you gotta do is X. There's no
Yeah.
all you gotta do. It's all woven together. If I think we spend too much on defense and we're going to lop a couple of billion off of there, I mean, I think that that's smart, but that's probably, you know, defense contractor families that aren't going to be hired. Like these are not, none of these things happen in a vacuum.
Yeah, and I think it's I guess the flip side is what happens when our debt is so high that we don't have any money to do anything. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess you can make this case. You just keep printing money over and over again, but at some point, it's got to catch up to you.
Yeah, uh, kind of. I mean, if the real relationship is your total spend to your GDP, because as long as you've got economic growth to keep the ball rolling, you're fine. But it can be like musical chairs, like you run out
I was thinking more like a Ponzi scheme, but okay.
kind of, yeah. Well, and yeah, you can keep up in the debt and keep the spending, but as long as your economic growth is keeping up, you can do okay. But then you have something like's happened over the last year or two, that your interest on the debt, that's the other thing that I think we've got to get. I think we've got a big reconciliation in this country. You and I have lived through most of our professional lives through the most historically low interest rate environment that has ever existed on earth.
Yeah.
And it's been artificially tamped down by a lot of government action, and there's been a lot behind that. But that's not how it's going to be. And so, a national debt that's affordable when your Fed rate is 2% is a very different proposition when your Fed rate is, you know, 6.
Right. Well, I guess where I was going is assuming at some point you got to pay the piper. At some point, you're going to have to make these incredibly difficult decisions. And it's
Yeah.
like no politician ever wants to make those incredibly difficult decisions. To me, there's hope that decisions like that are going to be made. But yeah, I'm with you. It's not an easy thing.
I
Um,
wonder if you could, this is like pie in the sky, but they did they they did a couple rounds back in the day of the base realignment and closure, the BRAC
yeah,
thing. And if I'm not mistaken, it was kind of like they had a representative group, people from different parties, and like they went into a bunker and made the decisions and then released the decision. You give everybody some plausible deniability.
right.
And I
Yeah,
wonder
yeah,
if, like I gotta say, for all of the hype, Mr. Musk and Mr. I can't remember his name. If you're going to try to do this on Twitter and in public, you're going to lose, because you give people the opportunity to line up the opposition. If we really wanted to cut, we would say we're going to put a select group of Congress people, some administration people, some agency people, and some people from McKinsey Consulting, and you're going to lock them away in a campus, and you're going to say, how do we make serious cuts in our budget? And
You know what would be cool is to get moles in every federal agency and have them like just like piss away the money, like make them like mini embezzlement scandals where, hey, where's our budget? Well, Smith spent it all, but instead of spending it all, Smith, funneled it back to the kitty.
it's like
I don't know.
recycling. But you know what I mean? If you had
Yeah,
this faceless, nameless body, and everybody said we're going to live
yeah.
with what they come up with.
Well, because I mean, that's the point. When you start cutting this crap, it's going to be battle royale of who's got the most political clout to prevent their crap from getting cut. But to your point, if it was like this BRAC type of thing where it's a secret committee that everybody signed up to, oh, hey, I'm sorry, Senator, it's not me, it's BRAC. It's the committee decides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I gotta say, and I don't relish this because I don't think it's necessarily good for the country. Democrats have got a lot of for a party that holds neither House of Congress nor the presidency. Democrats are going to have a lot of power in the next 4 years, because there's the Republican margin is so minor, is so slight, and basically they've hooked their star to say we're going to cut the cost of government. Well, then they're going to have to be the ones to be the bad guy. Like, that's what you
Yeah.
bite off on that. And I find it very interesting that bundled with these proposals is the permanent elimination of the debt ceiling. Like, we're going to cut the budget, but we're going to have a zero
Well,
credit limit.
but I think it also it kind of speaks to the the ingenuineness, I don't know if that's a word, of the budget ceiling. It's as if the budget ceiling is some kind of control. It's bullshit. They just
Right.
change it. It's all psychological. I mean,
No, I know. And actually, that's something that both sides have used for years to try to beat up on each other for, and it serves no purpose, right? We're going to, especially you can't have a balanced budget amendment at the federal level. It does not work. You have to be able to deficit spend in a federal government. That's fundamental to the workings of our economy. Honestly, depends on it. If we don't have government debt, your whole banking system is screwed. So,
yeah,
but the credit limit, if Congress authorized the expenditure, we're paying that bill. There's we're out of credit. No, we're paying that bill. It's
right.
not a negotiable thing. It's what full faith and credit means. And so it's this artificial concept. But I just thought it was interesting that yeah, that's something we're going to get out of the way right up front is we're going to cut our expenditures, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the debt ceiling off.
Right. Yeah, no, it does sound a little counterintuitive. Hey, back to our barbecue, our real quick, our
Yeah.
barbecue thing. I would love to have John Fetterman at my Christmas party. I
Oh
think
man.
he would
Yeah.
be rich,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
got to
What
wear
an
the hoodie.
interesting guy.
He can't come unless he wears the hoodie and the shorts.
Well, I don't think he would. I don't think he would. I don't think he would bother if he couldn't. He's an interesting guy. Like I really like. I don't always agree with him, but I the shake up the mold piece of him is that force is strong with this guy.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's a little bit why people like Trump. Yeah, I like somebody who's not afraid of the repercussions of the positions that he takes. And he takes hard positions that pisses off a lot of people. But, he obviously supports the party in a lot of other ways too. So he's not like a complete rogue, but he's his own man, and
So if
that's
your dinner
encouraging.
date is Fetterman, I got to pick a Republican. I would be interested to see if Rand Paul is as big an asshole as he appears to be.
That's good. I was so afraid you were going to say you wanted to have dinner with Mitt Romney. So that's good. You've been there,
um,
done that.
I've had that dinner with him or one like him. But
Right.
no, I think Rand Paul is I don't agree with him hardly on anything, but has that contrarian nature,
Yeah,
and
the
that's
question would
interesting to see.
be if you were having dinner with him, would you wind up like the neighbor and would you tackle him over the pile of leaves or whatever the hell
Yeah, who else on the scene is interesting? I'm not finding a lot of the cabinet picks as being particularly interesting people. I thought the first round Trump cabinet was pretty interesting. There were some pretty interesting personalities on there, and of course that didn't necessarily work out that great. Not sure what you're going to get with this batch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good bunch. Excited about several of them, but they're unconventional. So, time will tell how they turn out, but it's definitely going to be I think a different group. Trying to think of other Democrats I'd want at the barbecue or at the holiday party. I'd like to talk to Bernie Sanders. He's an interesting character. I could
Hmm.
see digging into some things with him. He'd be boisterous. Doesn't seem like a lot of fun.
I am really impressed with Pete Buttigieg, and I think at the dinner party or at the barbecue, I think it would be a lot of him talking. So I mean, there's there's some of
Yeah.
that, but I'm very impressed. He spoke here in town back in the well, it would have been when he was running would have been around 2019, running up towards the 2020 election when he was in it, and I caucused for him, and yeah, I'm real impressed with his vision for things. I think he's gonna be a factor on the scene for many years.
Well, they're
Young
talking like
guy,
he's going to run for governor now, but that he lives in Traverse City, right?
is he?
That's
Yeah,
what I hear that they're grooming him for that.
yeah. I think he's a smart guy, and I like the fact that he chose his avenue is he's gonna go right at Fox News. He's gonna make his presence there. Don't don't spend your time trying to convince the people that already agree with you.
So wait, he's going to be an anchor for Fox News, you're saying?
No, but he's a frequent contributor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's good.
So what about non-politicians but public figures? I gotta say, I am like a huge fan of Chris Cuomo, and I love what he's doing these days. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting because he's completely like he doesn't have to spout the party line of CNN. And so he throws out some really interesting ideas from time to time. He's just doesn't just fit the cookie cutter mold.
Well, he feels it seems like he's a lot more humble than he was too, which is kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
He doesn't he had an air of cockiness before, which you're at the top of the. It's not like he's hurting to make enough money to go out to dinner or something. I think he's just fine on funding, but he went from the top to a notch down after all this stuff came out.
Yeah. I enjoy his podcast and his YouTube programs. I've been all about it because he's had really good coverage. We touched on this last week, but the New Jersey drones is a. I think this is a lot bigger deal than people are acting like it is.
Did you see the NFL submitted a formal request to the government to like, how are we going to prevent this from being an issue when we have the Super Bowl? Because I guess I don't know, it's the Super Bowl on the East Coast someplace.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is this year, but yeah, the NFL's been all about it. Like we put 100,000 people in the same room, every week. I am mystified by the administration and the military's answers for what's going on these days.
There's
I
nothing to see here,
cannot,
folks. Nothing to
I
see.
cannot, I cannot imagine what it's
Well,
certain that there's people seeing airplanes in Orion's belt, of course, but this is not made up.
well, and I think you could dispel a lot if you said, "Hey, on umpty up day, that we researched the records of Flight Radar 24 has every flight in America, or every flight in the world. Okay, here's all the flights that existed. We found there were, it wouldn't take that much research for them to see, hey, we found X number of drones. Of those, this many are registered. Because if you've got a drone that's flying more than 500 feet, or I don't know what the parameter is, but you have to get it registered by the FAA. So, I
Right.
mean, surely they tell you how much stuff is registered and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line is that well, I wouldn't say I'm frightened of it, but I think I feel comfortable ruling out aliens because it's unlikely that aliens would use the normal like green on the left, red on the right of the, what are the odds that their light scheme is the same as everybody else? But I'm not convinced that it's not a foreign actor. And what are they going to say? I can't believe at this point, the two things that I can imagine going on is that it's kind of a deep cover government program, and they don't want to out the secrets of it. They don't want to admit that they're actually doing surveillance, or it's something that they don't control. And that's not crazy. We had the Chinese balloon thing a year ago. Like, I don't think that we necessarily have it all sewn up. I don't know. Maybe I'm a kook, but I'm not sure that there's a Iranian mothership off the coast of New Jersey, but I don't know that that's that laughable. Like,
Well,
might
and
be.
then it's kind of like we were texting about this separately, and I was like, so what would be the reason why the government would withhold this? It's got to be something that they're worried about that would incite some level of public unrest. I mean, so certainly if Iranians were there, but then the question would be, I mean, the other question would be, why the hell aren't we shooting it down? I mean,
Right.
and then that's where I think, and again, this is all like, or like we're talking on coast to coast about conspiracies. Hell, I don't know, but like if there was something that could harm people and they don't want to tell them. I read something about there's some speculation that there was some radioactive waste shipment that went missing, and are they out there sniffing for radioactive, and would you not want to let the public know that because then people are going to freak out that there's radioactive waste and like, well,
Yeah,
maybe,
that's
but
actually been looked into. I'm way deeper into the New
oh,
Jersey
okay,
drone
sorry.
conspiracy than I might than maybe good for my health. But that's actually true. There was a documented, but it was like a medical, it was like the cobalt
A
for an X-ray
flask.
machine
Yeah.
that got lost, and like like their Amazon package didn't get there.
Yeah,
So
we're not talking about 6 wheelers full of drums or something, right?
right,
Yeah, yeah.
right. But I heard, and I don't think there was any like fact to it, but just speculation. But then you think, okay, well, what if you do have some indication that the North Koreans have smuggled something in? How hard would it be to put something on a shipping container and then reassemble it later? And, then we're at sum of all fears.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
think that it's crazy that they like, even if you're going to lie to people, come up with a better lie than, oh yeah, we checked them out. There's no harm to humans. We don't know what they are, but there's nothing to worry about.
well, and it said at least the reference I saw is above 250 grams, drones are supposed to be registered with the FAA. Now, maybe they're not, but one of the reports, people said, well, they're the size of cars, and it's like, well, how the hell do you know how big it is? I mean,
Right.
but if they're sizable, if they're a few feet wide, they got to register with the FAA. And I guess the thought is like, it would have been a more credible denial if they said, hey, we looked and there were X number of planes flying over this area and there were X number of drones and they're all authorized. I mean, that wouldn't be that hard to pull that together and to quote that. But just to say, well, this is an overreaction, it's no big deal. Like, what the hell?
I am glad I don't have that job to get trotted out for that every afternoon. Yeah, we heard more about that, and no, we think it's three fifth graders in Piscataway. Uh, no,
Right.
I don't think that. What a bad job to have to be the defender of that.
Yeah, that John Kirby sometimes reminds me of Tariq Aziz. Like you talk about a shitty job as a spokesperson. Like, hey, I'm killing all these people. Tariq, go explain why that's good for the world. Like, oh, Mr. Hussein, blah 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 blah.
Just put a little spin on it for us.
That's right. Well, not to go back to the barbecue, but to go back to the barbecue. The other guy, you talking about non-political people who I'd love to get on our podcast is Stephen A. Smith. I love that guy,
Oh yeah,
the sportscaster. I mean, now I say that with some level of sincerity because I am a Cowboys fan and he hates the Cowboys and he takes every moment he can to bag on people like me who are a Cowboys fan, but I'm okay because I'm pissed at the Cowboys too. But he's one of those guys. I think one of the reasons I think he'd be a fascinating guy to talk to, because like if we had him on our podcast, there'd be things he'd agree with both of us. Like
hmm
he plays it well, like down the middle. Like Sean Hannity is a really good friend of his. Like they're pals. Like they talk a lot, but he's also got views that are way different. And I love that. It's
Yeah,
kind of like I don't know. It's like that thing I always heard about RBG, how like she and Clarence Thomas were like buddies. And
yeah,
honestly, that's us. That's what we're trying to be here. Like we're not trying to be
yeah.
Supreme Court justices, but like
Right.
we're trying to have like totally different viewpoints, but to be really good friends. And I love whenever I see examples of that, I think that's
Yeah.
interesting character.
Yeah. Well, you know, I, I think well, no, I don't. I was going to say a lot of people live with this and struggle with this in their, we've heard this from people that are listeners that, you know, more than who's going to come to drink their eggnog, like they're worried about the people that are going to be at their eggnog drinking because they're having a hard time talking to family. And, if you're a Fox News host or seeing, MSNBC and like you're only talking to the same tribe, like it's kind of a intellectual laziness, right? You
Yeah.
don't have to stretch yourself, but most Americans do. Like they don't want to be at odds with their family over the holidays. And but to not do that, you got to be informed enough to have your own opinion, but humble enough to realize that your opinion might not be the whole story. And it's kind of a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
I think it's, again, we've blamed this a lot, but that customized news that you get your feed, it
Right.
dumbs everything down because you're not challenged by anything. Like if you don't ever want to throw something at the radio,
Right.
maybe you're not. And we've talked about this before. I um, literally read in parallel the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. And like, I cannot bear the editorial page on the Wall Street Journal, but I love
Is
the
it because
news part of the Wall
it
Street Journal.
is it because it's too liberal for you, which is what I
Yeah.
think about the Wall Street Journal? Yeah.
Yeah. Those crazies are, yeah. But it stretches you, like it's like a gym workout. Like, I don't want to be mentally flabby.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is I need to get a subscription to the Washington Post for this to be prepared for this show.
Uh, I'm a fan of the Washington Post. They've taken some hits lately. They're suffering a little bit. It's still a
Sounds
great
like
paper.
so. I mean, they or the New York Times would benefit from my subscription, probably.
They would. I have never been a New York Times fan. I don't know why. Like, talk about tribal, I've read the Wall Street Journal since I was my freshman year of college. I've just always been a subscriber and I read it religiously. I picked up the Washington Post 6 or 8 years ago, and it's an interesting flavor. I find the New York Times, even though like politically it agrees with me a lot, I don't like the tone can be a little overbearing.
Yeah.
There's a
Well, they're New
little
Yorkers.
smugness. Yeah. That said, I don't know. I mean, do you have any exposure? Do you ever listen to the Daily podcast from New York Times? That's good.
I don't. Honestly, I mean, what's crazy is my biggest exposure to, I think, the left is on the Drudge Report. And that used to
Mm.
never be the case. But I don't even know if he owns it anymore. I mean, who the hell knows he even runs it? I don't know if he's in charge or not, but it's not, it used to be kind of a far right read. Now it's much more left for sure.
I think it's I think it's anti-establishment.
Yeah.
I first started reading Drudge during the Lewinsky scandal when it that's how I turned on to them.
That's a
And
good point. Maybe it's not right or left. Maybe it's just anti-establishment.
yeah, it's like tear them all down. And if it feels really left to you, I mean, I guess I would. I don't. This sounds like a dig, and I don't mean it like that. But you know, Trump leaves lots of open doors. Like if you want to throw things about crazy out there, like there's lots of material. And if you're looking to just kind of throw stones at politicians, like there's like a lot of open doors there.
I guess you don't read Breitbart or Newsmax.
Not so much. Not so much.
There you go. I like Zero Hedge too.
Yeah, you've mentioned
they're
that. I need to get up on that.
well, they're a little more economic focused for sure,
Hmm.
and kind of hands off. But
All the money I made off of Trump is gone for what it's worth. I had, right after the election, investments kind of popped. I got a little Bitcoin action and made a fortune, and I've been feeling really guilty, like it's blood money. But I feel less guilty now because all of those gains have evaporated. So,
you should
you
have
know,
bought Tesla stock. That would have really helped your portfolio.
what I should have bought for Tesla is I should have bought the company that's selling the bumper stickers that are like, I bought this before he became such a jackass.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
they were good liberals. They were buying electric cars, and then now, like, oh my gosh, I can't sell the thing because it didn't retain any value.
no. Well, the other thing that was funny about Musk is there was something tonight about like Keith Olbermann got into him with it over something on Twitter, and it's like "F you, Elon." He's going off, and then somebody pointed out, it's kind of interesting. You're making these digs at Musk on Twitter, and you've got a blue check mark. Yeah. Well, you talk about politicization. I mean, it's Trump's the same thing. It's like I don't know if you ever see the Trump interview with the View before he announced he was running for president. Oh my
Mm.
gosh! I mean, they love him. They think he's the funniest guy in the world. And like everybody's everybody's friend until you're in politics. And then you're all of a sudden an enemy.
Well, maybe I'm making something up that's not there. But we actually had an exchange on text that butted on this because you said that you know people who've been around Trump and thought very highly of him and the way that he acted in a personal way. And I think we've already established that people's public persona can be very different than their private
Yeah,
presentation. I will say, I think one of the problems is that the kind of thing that we talked about that horrify me most about Trump, I don't know that it's his personal beliefs. This would be a whole nother topic. I don't know that his I don't even know what that is like. He's clearly, historically, in terms of policies, he himself has not been, has not exhibited a particularly socially conservative agenda, and the specific thing I think we were talking about was gay people, and that there's like they were welcome at Mar-a-Lago, and like that there's like that's not a thing for him at all.
like his Treasury Secretary pick is the highest ranking openly gay cabinet member of any
Yeah,
cabinet member to date.
yeah,
Yeah,
like I don't think
yeah.
that like he doesn't. Again, you don't get the impression that his personal beliefs are. People said Trump's a racist, and I've never believed that. I don't think he has that kind of. Well, we've talked before. I don't think he's a liar. I think he's a bullshitter. And it's that he doesn't, like, I don't think he has strong opinions about that. My concern is, and again, maybe it's not fair to hang this on him, but all along I've told you that he countenances things, he welcomes people into the tent. He doesn't correct them, he doesn't shut that down. He lets people be comfortable who aren't broad-minded, who aren't tolerant of other people. And again, so he's a nice guy in person, but I think, a problem in what he's doing in governance. In the same way, he might not be personally a racist, a bigot, a a homophobe. He might not be any of those things personally, but if he operates in a way that elevates those values in the culture, like, does it, like, what do you care about? Do you care if he's a nice guy, or do you care about what the outcome is? Because actually, that's what all along you've, like, before the election, I'm throwing this at you like I'm
Yeah,
accusing,
yeah.
but like the idea is, well, I don't like him personally. I don't think about what his values are, but he did a good job as president. I like his policy. I'm putting that on its end, and I'm saying he might be a fine guy in person, but he has certainly made, in his previous term, made groups like the Proud Boys more visible and comfortable. And I don't think that probably is a reflection of his values. But do you not have responsibility for how you deal with groups like that?
I mean, what about groups that support the left, to the Louis Farrakhan's of the world, and they
It's
want
a
to kill
fair
all the
question.
Jews?
It's a
You
fair
know,
question. But I'm just saying, like the fact that he might be a nice guy in person might be fun
well,
at the barbecue, right? But
but
like, what's the
that's the
fruit?
part that, but that's the part that gets me, is that most of the objections over Trump, and you kind of pointed this out early on when we were having our pre-election discussions. It's not because of his policy. It's not because of what he's doing. It's because people think he's an asshole.
I think that there's a third thing that's going on here, and maybe this is an overly convoluted construct. There's who he is as a person. There's I think you use the label policy, and I think there's something else that I would call vibe, or something like that. And they're not aligned. Like the policies, if you look strictly at economic policy, right, like we've agreed that he is not exactly in the lineage of Ronald Reagan in terms of fiscal conservatism. And he might be a nicer guy than he comes across, but does he have no responsibility for making Do you disagree that there's been a rise in visible, at least, nativism, white supremacy? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth or make that up, but I feel like in his first administration, there were groups that felt very comfortable and empowered being out loud in public that weren't before.
I disagree. I think the media was really happy to hang the racist label on him. But, it's like, is anybody worried about the Ku Klux Klan?
Again, I'm not saying that I think that he's a racist, but it's overblown, so I don't want to go there. But there's great people on both sides. Like,
But again,
no,
total fallacy. That's not what he said. He specifically said in that instance, the white supremacists are I forget the term, but he said they were awful people. And that's what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
That whole, both people, great people on both sides, the original, the original protest was about tearing down statues that have been there for 300 years. And what he was trying to say is there are people that aren't necessarily racist, but don't necessarily want to tear down every historical statue. And
Yeah.
then that got overblown but right before he said that, I mean, literally, it's that one in particular, it was really clear because he said, if you're a white, the white supremacists are totally wrong and that's unacceptable. But
Hmm.
there were people that didn't necessarily want to tear down every statue from the last 300 that weren't necessarily racist.
Well,
But where I'm
I'll
going with
stand
that,
corrected
though,
on that
but
then.
but that's my point, though. Like that has become. I mean, Biden said in his debate, and nobody fact checked him from the debate. The debate moderators. It is the media has pinned that you are a racist. And he's got black people that support him, more people that black people voted for him, and
Sure.
it's like I'd love to see examples, but I don't see that other than a lot of people saying, well, there's all this racism. It's like, well, I just laugh because people are like, oh, the Ku Klux Klan. Like, really? Is anybody remotely worried about, a couple of hillbilly assholes? And I mean, I don't know. That to me is like I don't know.
If he
Not,
made a more robust denial or on that, I, I'll admit that maybe that's a part of the media bubble because I didn't see that, and I think that's what I would wish for is that he would call that out. And so if he did and I missed it, I stand corrected on. I just you bear some responsibility for the fruit that, and that's maybe the question is that I'm reading the fruit wrong, but
yeah, I was
maybe
trying to
I've
go
been
back.
fear mongered in the whole thing. But it's concerning, at least what I see. For what it's worth, I'm seeing less of that in this second go round. He seems less beholden. I fear a little bit for evangelicals that went all for Trump, thinking that he was going to be their next Messiah, because I don't think he is. I don't think he, you know, I think he felt burned on the. I think he legitimately believed when he said, "Well, everybody thought we ought to repeal Roe v. Wade and turn it back to the states." Like I think somebody told him that, and he believed that.
To the what? I'm
The
sorry.
Roe v. Wade, that we should return it to the states. He said in the debate, he's like, well, yeah, we overturned Roe versus Wade, and we said we'll do it at, state by state. And he said everybody told me that that's what they wanted. The Democrats all wanted that, and it's like, no, no, that's not what they wanted.
Well, I do think a lot of Democrats thought Roe v. Wade was bad law.
I thought Roe v. Wade was bad law. I
Yeah.
mean, the yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could do there, but I think it was I think that it was not particularly well written as a decision, and that left enough opening that it maintained. The interesting thing. This is a sideline, and probably going to go deeper in this than we want. The interesting thing is the role that the Supreme Court has played in moving things that we couldn't quite get our act together to do legislatively. Brown versus Board of Education is a perfect example, right? When they decided that, they were out in front of where we were as a nation ability to legislate it, and certainly in the South. And yet it was clearly the right decision, and it got adopted. It led the culture, but it led the culture. Roe versus Wade did not have that same effect. It was a no-go from the start for a sizable portion of the electorate, and it never got closer. But I think it's interesting that I think it was really easy to say, well, no, Roe versus Wade is terrible. We need to outlaw abortion all over in the country until they want, like the dog that caught the car, and they realize that it does not have. We're seeing this in my state that the legislature thinks, yeah, there we go. We're just going to do this really early ban, and they're not in phase with where the electorate is, and that's going to be an issue. It's going to wind up being a thing that the Democrats are going to beat on in the same way that the Republicans have beat on it for 50 years.
Yeah. But it is, I think the Democrats hoped that Roe v. Wade would have been a much more resonating issue in the election, and didn't seem to prove to be.
Yeah, I think back to our post-mortem, I think where people are with the economy and with the lack of opportunity, I don't think there's any social issue that's going to trump that for people. Trump, no pun intended.
Hey, great pun. Yes.
I just think that, yeah, I think it's still strong, and I don't think it's going away. I think that's going to be revisited over and over again. But we were just in a position where the economic concerns took up all the oxygen.
Well, my hope is that Trump does some stuff that you're really going to like, and it's going to make awkward conversation. That's what my hope is.
I hope that you believe that if he does something right, that I'll give him credit for it.
Yeah, and
rather than just reflectively saying that it's nonsense.
Yeah, and if Kamala Harris had won, I hope that, I think it'd be in the same boat. I mean, not everything would have been bad. Some stuff would work.
Honestly, that's the hard part of this. That's the hard part of the exercise. Like, it's easy to, you're my brother, and I'm happy to talk to you, and I think that our bond is stronger than our differences. But just like government efficiency is all well and good until you got to start cutting money, civil discourse is all well and good until you've got to bite the bullet and acknowledge that it's not everything that the other guy does is 100% wrong.
Right.
It's just been interesting dialogue with friends who've listened to the podcast where they're just like, I couldn't let that go. And it's like, well, no, you got to let stuff go. That's the whole point, is that we've got to let stuff go.
Right. I'm amazed at people that have listened that find it entertaining. I mean, I'm entertained talking to you, but we entertain each other. Again, I'm shocked that anybody finds it entertaining, but but I'm flattered that you have friends that are like, what the hell was that guy talking about? Well, good. I mean, they listen to it at least, that's a positive.
Yeah, I agree.
I still mean it though. I want to come up there and visit you sometime. I want you to get your most virulent, angry friend, and I want to split a bottle of whiskey with him, and we'll break it all down.
Yeah, I mean, I've got friends that this could work badly.
We'll have the officials on standby just in case.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it's all fun and games, and until the thing is that we're liberals, so that we're less likely to shoot people up than the.
Well, that's true. That's good. Yeah, nobody's carrying.
I keep thinking of the couple in St. Louis. This is a non sequitur or anything, but the guy that when there were protests, he was out on his lawn with the machine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, protesters were walking by and they had weapons, just
it's just, look, I'm a gun owner, I get property rights, but like, there was nothing good about being seen on the news in your fancy house with your AK-47. There's just nothing good about that.
No, I got to type that up. What happened to the St. Louis couple with the AK-47? There's a Wikipedia article, the St. Louis gun-toting incident. They were prosecuted, pled guilty to misdemeanor offenses, and then they got pardoned in 21.
It's not the Christmas card photo that you want.
I mean, and maybe I'm reflecting my lack of willingness to participate in the civil forum. But like, I don't care who I'm voting for. I wouldn't put a sign on my yard. I just think you're inviting people to screw with you. Regardless of what side you're on, you know.
Yeah. Well, again, who I voted for is not necessarily who I worship, right?
Right. Yeah.
Uh, like,
I mean, put a cross and then, a political sign. Right. Yeah.
yeah. But don't you think that both ways, some people that is exactly what they're looking for. They are loving the tribalism. They are loving and I think it's a matter of intellectual laziness or something, but some people like they don't want to do the hard work. It's
Yeah.
not easy to think about things and to be self-reflective and to
Consider
examine your value.
somebody might be right, and all this crap that you believe in might be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just real convenient to say, I check that box and that's who I am. I'm a fill in the blank and I don't got to think about it anymore. It's
Well,
not for me.
again, speaking of family members who probably won't ever listen to the show, but my dad voted for this party and my grandpa voted for this party, so I'm always going to vote for this party. And it's like, well, I got news for you. The parties have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've trotted it out here. I'm really proud of having changed party affiliations in the middle of my life. And so proud that like maybe I was wrong. Maybe I think that in some ways I'm more comfortable, certainly economically, with the Republican side than the Democrats. But
Hey,
nobody
I'm
owns me.
proud. I'm proud. I've changed political party affiliations while staying voting for the same political party.
That you have. Yeah, there. But you know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah.
it feels good. Like nobody owns me. You
Right.
can't count on my vote.
Yeah.
You got to earn my vote.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Just as total aside, when I get worried about the country, I have several extensive histories of the Civil War that I pop on the audiobook cycle. And so I'm deep in spring of 1864 right now. And like this gives me comfort because it's not as bad as it was then. But 1864, the machinations between the Republicans, Lincoln was in real danger of the Republicans boosting him out of the ticket because he wasn't going hard and fast enough for them.
Mm.
And Jefferson Davis, the Confederate States had like officially no political parties. Like we're all in this together. But people were out to get him in a crazy way. And just interesting, in the midst of the Civil War, that parts of this was business as usual. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
How recognizable some of that crap was. And then I think, well, it's bad, but we're not shelling Fort Sumter. It's bad, but we're not. And I don't mean this to even sound trivial, but Battle of Gettysburg. You're talking about tens of thousands of men that we did this in this country. I think we need to keep our current squabbles in context.
Yeah. Well, and that's another topic for another day. We could talk about the Civil War of the pending Civil War, but it's like, what the hell is everybody going to be fighting for? Like, I am fighting for this plot of land. You're like there's no lines.
Well, we're going to have to set pickets around the rich suburbs.
Right. Exactly. Be a little donut around every city, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it is a lot more complicated than just like Mason Dixon across the middle of the country. It's kind of a more micro concept.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, let's wrap for tonight. And we wish everybody a great holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and a good season of gathering with family, even family that drive you crazy.
Hey, and just remember, you have a cocktail, take a chill pill. This season, what it represents and the family are a whole hell of a lot more important than any jackass in Washington, D.C. So
that needs to be our tagline for the whole podcast. family is more important than any jackass in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
Cheers.
Beautiful.